welcome back to Movie Review Mom. And if this is the very first time you've discovered my YouTube channel, yay, a special welcome to you. I hope you like what you see and that you stay and that you subscribe. All right, I've got a crazy movie to tell you about today. So if you're new here, I review a lot of different kinds of movies. Some of them I really, really like and I recommend, and others I don't like, but I recognize that other people might. And that's kind of the category that today's film falls in. So it is called Willy's Wonderland, and it drops today on video on demand. Today being February 12th, 2021. This movie is rated R. It's an hour and 28 minutes. And the movie review mom grade I'm giving it is a C for cult. And I'm going to explain more about that. First, let me give you an overview in a nutshell. I'll point out things I liked and didn't like. And then I'll give you tips for parents. The biggest tip is kids should not watch this movie. And I'll point out some themes that are worth talking about and even give you some recommendations for other things that I think that you might like to watch, or in this case, video games you might want to play if you like this movie. All right, so first of all, in a nutshell, we all think that that country bear jamboree at Disneyland is kind of charming, but creepy at the same time. Am I right? Well, this movie, Willy's Wonderland, is Country Bear Jamboree on evil steroids. So if you're a cult fan of Nicolas Cage or Cage Rage, you'll get a laugh out of this, what I'm calling a comedy horror, where Nicolas Cage kicks animatronic butt with a mop and even dances, all without saying a single word. So if that sounds like a terrible way to spend your time, then you're going to want to skip this one. My best advice is to watch the trailer. And if you're like, oh, that looks awesome, then you're probably going to enjoy the movie. But if you were like, what? Then don't watch this movie. So Screen Media sent me a screener for this very quirky horror film directed by Kevin Lewis. It's about a quiet loner, played by Nicolas Cage, who finds himself stranded in a remote town when his car breaks down. Unable to pay for the repairs because they don't accept credit cards, he has to have cash, and all the ATMs in town are broken. He agrees to spend the night cleaning Willy's Wonderland, an abandoned family fun center. But this Wonderland has a dark secret that this would-be janitor is about to discover. He soon finds himself locked in an epic battle with possessed animatronic mascots that roam the halls. It's so bizarre. So to survive, he must fight his way through each of them, and he does. The first-time screenwriter, G.O. Parsons, liked the idea of a simple story. In a press release, he stated, I didn't plan on it being a major motion picture. So he was a struggling actor, and a friend urged him to write a screenplay. So he admits that he loves watching breaking robots. And so he also used to love going to Chuck E. Cheese and places like that. And so he just thought that would be hilarious as a horror movie location. So when the screenplay wasn't immediately picked up, he utilized an Indiegogo campaign. And as soon as it was announced that Nicolas Cage would star in the film, the money flowed. But even still, it's a low budget B movie of sorts. They spent about $5 million to bring this wacky concept to the big screen or to your small TV screen in the case of this video on demand release. So there were some things I liked about the movie. The director stated that Nicolas Cage is his own genre. Agreed. I've always liked Nicolas Cage, even though my kids actually make fun of him. And I think that the younger generation kind of does. But he definitely has a cult following. And that's who this film is for, I think. About the script for this movie, he said, quote, I thought it was original and absurd, and I like things that are absurd. I found it hilarious and potentially terrifying. I don't get opportunities to act with giant stuffed ostriches or alligators or turtles or weasels, so I thought that would be a lot of fun, end quote. So his character never says a word during the entire film, which is kind of entertaining and disappointing at the same time. He said he got his inspiration from other actors who also never spoke in movies, like Harpo Marx and Buster Keaton. So this is actually Nicolas Cage's eighth horror movie, in case you weren't counting. The film was shot in only 20 days, and it looks like it, but they finished it right before the pandemic hit last February, here in the United States at least. The animatronic suits were designed by Ken Hall, and the movie had to be shot in chronological order because the suits couldn't be used after Nicolas Cage beat the crap out of them, basically. With so much crazy in front of the lens, sometimes director Lewis would be tempted to set up vertiginous canted angle camera shots, which is also called a Dutch angle. And he said, and we think, gosh, is it too much? And then I think, you know what? This is Nick Cage beating up an animatronic weasel. No, nothing's too much. And so I like that the movie doesn't take itself seriously at all. That's a good thing. The cast includes mostly a younger cast with Emily Tosta, Kaylee Cowan, Terrell Hill, Grant Kramer, David Sheftel, Rick Wrights, and a lot of voice talent to bring these creepy animatronics to life. I thought that Beth Grant did a really good job as this psycho sheriff. I always get a kick out of her. Inside the film, there are actually some Easter eggs. For example, there's this King Kong moment where an alligator gets its jaw cracked open by none other than Nick Cage, of course. So if you go into the movie knowing it's going to be kind of a classic B-level horror film from the 80s, then you might have fun. And remember, this is not a movie for everyone's taste. What's kind of funny is that watching this trashed facility get cleaned by Nicolas Cage was somehow therapeutic. I mean, he trashes it every time he destroys one of these animatronic evil characters, and then he cleans up the mess because that's what he's being paid to do there. So I liked that. There's a man who takes his job seriously. Now, there were a lot of things I didn't like. And honestly, this just was not a movie that I really enjoyed and think everyone should run out and see it. There is a lot of exposition at the 40-minute mark in the movie where someone is explaining the backstory, trying to make sense of the ridiculous plot. And then 15 minutes later, there's another long scene of exposition where they're explaining more. And you're like, okay. There were quite a few scenes of the camera zooming in on people's boots. And I thought, okay, well, that's different. There were a lot of cliched, one-dimensional characters, which is pretty true of most horror movies anyway. And with all of this fighting, which is hilarious on one side, it's also extremely violent and gory. And I was surprised at how uncreative the fight scenes actually were. It's pretty straightforward, brute violence. And I thought they could have really had fun with it and done more to make it fun, maybe less gore and more creativity in some of the stunts and the fight scenes. One thing that I thought was totally stupid is this facility is supposed to be super creepy and dangerous and scary, right? And so there are these dumb teenagers that go in to supposedly rescue Nicolas Cage because they know he's in there. And so two of these dumb teenagers decide, let's just go at it in one of these rooms while people around us are dying, and it's just so stupid. So dumbest horror movie characters ever. As expected, some of the acting is very bad. So this is one of those really bad, dumb movies that people just laugh at and maybe have playing in the background during a party or something like that. Let me give you some tips for parents. As I mentioned, this is not a movie you want to watch together as a family, and definitely not have your kids watch alone either. There's just lots of blood, violence, splatters, gore, in addition to profanity and F-bombs. There's some Spanish that's spoken without subtitles, and I actually speak Spanish, so it was kind of fun to hear what he said, but you're not going to miss anything. I always try to look for positive and uplifting themes in movies, and so as I was scratching my head on this one, I thought, well, one theme is taking pride in your work. And Nicolas Cage definitely does that as this janitor in this facility. Other themes would be determination, good versus evil, sacrificing for others. Obviously, the movie is not deep or profound. I also try to write down funny lines and interesting lines in the movie, and I include them in my written review at moviereviewmom.com. In this movie, Nicolas Cage doesn't say anything, so there's nothing I could quote from him. I mean, he literally doesn't say a word, but there's one character, his name is Tex McAdoo, and he's played by Rick Wrights, and he says, talking about Nicolas Cage, he says, "My hat's off. That is one tough hombre." And he is. Okay, so now before I go, let me give you a couple of recommendations for movies that are similar. Some people are comparing this movie with another Nicolas Cage movie called Mandy. Now, I have not seen that movie, but I've heard other film critics say it's, the same type of crazy action, violence, gore with Nicolas Cage. So if you want more of this kind of stuff, check that movie out. And then a lot of people are comparing this movie to a video game called Five Nights at Freddy's. That's a video game I've never played. The plot is very, very similar. And I've heard that Five Nights at Freddy's was actually going to make a movie, in which case it would be basically the same movie as Willy's Wonderland. So now that this one's come out, I don't know if they're still going to do it or not. If this cult base really loves this movie and it does well, then I'm sure Five Nights at Freddy's is going to turn their video game into a movie just because it's a popular idea, apparently. Okay, so there you have it. There's the heads up. Thank you so much for subscribing, and even just liking or commenting down below helps my channel grow, helps people find my YouTube channel. And thank you also for those of you who are going over to Patreon to give me a little love and support over there. I really appreciate it. All right, I hope that if you watch this movie, you have a good time, and I will catch you in the next movie review. Bye for now.